Hey, Irene.
Hey.
Been a long week.
I'm tired. I'm ready for a pizza and a beer.
Hey, friends. You're watching BrainStormAcres. I'm Henry.
And I'm Irene.
We have a special destructive topic to talk about today.
Right, so if you're not into squashes, squashing mites and rats and other small critters that eat your garden,
Move along.
move along.
You know, we've been on our homestead now for 16 years. And the one thing that we've learned here is that if you grow it, they will come. That's number one. And number two, they will really come.
And even if you're not growing something, I mean, when we moved here, there was an old garage here that was partially constructed. And to say that it was literally full of rat stuff and mouse stuff is an understatement. And we actually had to get the special HEPA filter masks so that you won't get the plague from the mice and rats, because they carry good stuff like that. They carry hantavirus and stuff like that. I mean, I remember in the morning when we first were here, we had a nasty little routine where Henry would flip a board over and I'd smash whatever the board was under the board with a shovel.
Yeah.
And it would be 3, 4, 5, 6 rats.
Yeah.
And mice, mostly rats.
So as you can tell, we're talking about rodents. Mice, rats, kangaroo rats, squirrels,
Yeah.
chipmunks, unfortunately.
Well, chipmunks are a plague in a lot of parts of the United States, and while they're wicked cute, I think they're wicked cute at state parks when you're feeding them sunflower seeds. I don't think they're wicked cute in my garden.
They're wicked destructive is what they are. Hey, you want to talk about...
I have two of my favorite weapons here, yes. There are two main kinds of snap traps available in the United States. They have some plastic ones and stuff like that, but honestly, I wouldn't buy plastic in our part of the world because the UV would destroy it too quickly. And there's nothing like having a rat trap come apart in your hand because it bites you almost inevitably. The two different kinds that are most commonly available here, and most other places I've been really, are Victor and Tomcat. They both produce, Victor mostly does different kinds of traps. Tomcat also does all kinds of poisons. We do not use any of the poisons because there's always a risk of poisoning a dog or cat, or a bird for that matter. A raven or something might eat something and wind up dying from it. So we stick with the traps. I will not use glue traps. I think they're inhumane. And I just think it's cruel. And the point is, if they would stay away, if I could have a little like Star Trek style
Force field.
Yeah, force field, so that they'd be on the outside and I'd be on the inside, I would be happiest. We had to resort to traps. And when I first got here, I did buy some mouse traps, but I found out they were useless. Because yes, they will catch mice, but a rat will wind up with one stuck on its foot and they'll take it away. The two main kinds that we get in this area, at least, are Victor and Tomcat. And they both have their pros and cons. When I first got rat traps, the only ones that were available were Victor.
Right.
And they're extremely sturdy. They're repairable, and that's one of the things I do like about them. If they come apart, like I've had these U-shaped pieces of wire spring off as the wood dries and swells and stuff like that. And I've also had them get rusty. Well, rusty you fix easy. Like if this piece here gets a little too corroded, you get a piece of sandpaper and you polish this so that it slides easily. Because you do want this to slide well. If somebody gets in there and touches this, you want it to slide and smack them one. And then Tomcat came along, and for a while there, Tomcat I liked it better because it's more sensitive. However, it is more sensitive. And we leave our traps outside most of the time. I don't bring them in every time. And even if I did try and bring them in every day, they would still get wet and dry and wet and dry just from the natural weather cycle.
Yeah, one of the problems with these spring traps is that they have to be set at night after the birds have gone in, and you have to pick them up in the morning, or at least disarm them in the morning,
right,
so that you don't catch something you don't want to catch.
Exactly. So with that level of attention, The tomcats would be great inside. Like if I had a barn environment that was relatively stable in terms of a lack of rain and things like that, I think the tomcats would be awesome because they are a little bit more sensitive, but they're fussy. So once this board warps slightly here, and once the wires get a little bent out of use, and they seem to get bent out of use just from being used. So in other words, after it's gone off a few times, sometimes it doesn't set anymore. And all of a sudden you're having trouble. I mean, you'll set it and stand there and watch it and it'll go off.
Now, the great thing about these traps is they can be inexpensive. We've seen them in the big box store from anywhere $15 a piece, which is ridiculous for a rat trap as far as I'm concerned. But I think most of the ones that we bought have been under $3 because we buy them on sale.
So if you're going to be using stuff outside, I really do recommend the Victor ones because if you're in a climate-controlled environment, Tomcat is awesome. But if you're not, Victor. And people have asked a couple of times, what do I do with the critters? I throw them over the fence.
She feeds...
I feed the ravens.
The ravens. The ravens come by here every day, a couple of times a day, a lot of times.
Yeah.
They look to see what she's thrown over the fence.
When we've been having trouble with squirrels and stuff, I always have I do the same thing. Anytime I've got squirrels that I've shot, I throw them in the same spot. So the ravens know. It's like they get their binoculars out and check it out. George, look, she's thrown another one out.
Now, one of the things that we do is a lot of times in the morning, I'll get up and disarm the traps. Mm-hmm. We do have some traps that we put under milk crates, and that's primarily to protect them from birds. Well, It's not protect them from the birds, protect the birds from them.
Yeah.
But still, some of the smaller birds are stupid, and they'll sneak in through the holes where the handles
Actually,
are.
there's only one kind of bird I've ever gotten here. Only one kind. The sparrows stay away, the bigger birds stay away, the canyon towhees are dumb, and they will get in there and get squashed.
I leave the leavings from the traps.
When I get up, I'll go clean up on aisle squash, which means that one of the traps over by the squash has got a dead critter in it.
I'm not at all squeamish about this. I'd have no problem throwing them over the fence, and sometimes I do that. But it's better that Irene sees what's actually going on in those fences.
I'm the one who kind of keeps track of what's going on in terms of what kind of damage we're getting. And a lot of times, if we're only getting a tiny bit, I don't even bother. I mean, I don't mind sharing. It's when we're getting devastation. Earlier this summer, we were having a huge humongous trouble with something eating just the zinnias, not the other flowers mostly. And then they started on some of the other vegetables, and I'm like, I don't think so.
Now, one of the big drawbacks of these spring traps is there are critters that come to our gardens in the middle of the day.
We can fence the rabbits out. That's not a problem. We figured out how to fence out the rabbits years ago, and in the last 6 years, I think we've only had a rabbit get in twice. And that was the first time it happened. It turned out it was because somebody wasn't closing the gates. We had one extremely clever teenage rabbit. Wasn't a tiny baby.
Stupid rabbit is what it was.
It was clever, but it figured out how to slide up between the inside and outside fences and get in. There was one section that was loose on that side, and it managed to slide it. Well, then the trouble is it couldn't get out.
Yeah.
So it actually, I wish I'd had a video. It was hysterical because I'm chasing it around the yard, and the cat is chasing it around the yard. I don't think Jack was outside. He may have been inside or whatever. But mostly it was me and the cat that were chasing it around the yard. And it's terrified, of course, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get it out. And what it did is it managed to get over to the other side of the yard and wedge itself between the inside and the outside fences. Now it's stuck. And now the cat can sneak up on it and sniff it because she really wants to sniff this thing. But she's afraid of it because, of course, it's flailing around like crazy. But once it's wedged in the fence, then she can sniff it. So once she got done sniffing it, I went outside the fence and released the fence at the bottom so it could fly away. Rabbits are relatively easy to fence out as long as you understand how they get in.
Rats, not so easy.
They climb.
Mice, not so easy.
They climb.
Chipmunks, not easy at all.
They climb like crazy.
And squirrels.
Also, they climb.
Now, one of the problems that we have, these traps are great at night, whether it's the Victor or the Tomcat. They're great at night.
Now, I have used them here during the day in moments of desperation. A couple of years ago, we had someone raiding the garden during the day, and I would go out there in the morning, and the squash plant would be perfectly fine, and it has a beautiful squash on it, and I'm thinking, I will pick that about 4 o'clock this afternoon for dinner. And I come back out there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's gone. Yeah. The whole piece is gone. So in that case, what I did was I actually took 4 milk crates, set a rat trap under each milk crate right by the squash plant, and I got me a squirrel.
There are some rodents that can evade capture with these spring traps.
If you're not familiar with kangaroo rats, they are a truly amazing little critter. They're cute as a button. And we have video of them. I've got regular video of them, and I also, this past month, got video of them showing their special genetic technique that they've developed over the year.
Yeah.
They are actually designed through survival to be able to escape a snake when it strikes. So that means they can jump like straight up and out and sideways in all the directions at one time. So they can do that in one fell swoop, like lightning.
They move faster than that spring trap can close.
The way you get a kangaroo rat with a spring trap is you take and it's still a hit and miss, you take 2 of them and you set them underneath a milk crate. And what happens is sometimes in the process of getting away from one, they land on the other one and you get them. But that's such a hit and miss.
So
the big guns
we decided to
invest
a lot of money. These things are not cheap. This is an A24 rat and mouse trap made by Good Nature.
Yep. They're frequently actually used by professional, like people who have dairy barns and horse barns and stuff like that, because if you get major rat infestations, it can be a major sanitation problem.
So we bought a couple of these traps. One is outside. It's been out for a couple of days. We leave it set up 24/7. Now, we're not recommending this trap. We're showing you what we have. We don't have enough hours on the one that's outside to know how well it works. What I will tell you is that when we set it out, the next day or the next morning, I was here in the great room and I heard it go off.
Right.
And I thought about it and I said, I probably ought to go look. And I fell asleep and didn't go look at it. And when I got up and went out and looked, whatever was in it, if there was something in it, was gone, which is the way this trap is designed to be used.
Well, we think what happened was the ravens were in that morning, and they were noisy as heck. You've never heard a racket until you've heard a raven stomping around on your metal roof. It'll wake you up. You're like, who's on the roof, you know?
So this is the business end of the trap right here. It's a pretty clever design. It's designed so that a cat can't put its paw up in here. A dog can't put its paw up in here. A lot of your basic household pets can't get inside this.
I suppose if you had a ferret, it could, but most people don't keep ferrets loose in the yard.
There is a trigger up here that will trigger a carbon dioxide cylinder that I'll put in this trap here in just a second. And it will drive a bar straight across this part of the trap right here. And whatever's inside it is going to get hit in the head. And it will die. And then what happens is it falls down. They're after you.
They are.
Now, these traps are pricey. We could buy, probably 20 or 30 traps, spring traps, for the price of one of these traps. But the advantage to this trap is we can leave it set up all the time.
Around here, if something gets zapped by a trap, the ravens will come in and clean it out for you if they can spot it. And they eventually will spot. Things like squirrels are actually pretty noticeable to a raven.
The power source for this trap is a CO2 cartridge. For those of you who have ever shot a CO2 BB gun, that's what this is. It screws into the end of the trap.
Are you supposed to do that before you put the other stuff together?
Yes. You tighten it down. The first thing you're supposed to do is test this mechanism to see if it works.
And they recommend a chopstick.
Or a stick, or a straw.
But not your finger.
Plug your ear. This is going to make some noise if it works. Well, now that we've done that, it's time to put this together. I'm going to put this top on, just because I don't want to accidentally set it off.
Yeah, sticking your finger in there would be an emergency room trip. Assuming you still had a finger.
I'd have a finger.
It'd be kind of flat.
It would be.
I don't know what the actual pressure is, but I bet it's enough to shatter bone.
It snaps in like that, and now the trap is set to be loaded with the bait.
Don't do it in my living room. I mean, this has to be done outside. It drips because it's hot here.
The bait's really an interesting device. It's a little foil packet that comes with a 10-cent South African?
No,
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
And when you put it in, this coin is steel,
Yeah.
so that it will actuate a magnet to keep the goop from coming out of the bag.
Don't you have to take that out?
No, we just have to go by and take the top off every few days and squeeze the package. That's an alternative, because one of the things I noticed is that this package will leak. This screws in, and then you're ready to go set it up. I have one that's out in the yard right now. Now, the reason why we've gone to this kind of a trap is to try to catch those annoying rodents that come in during the day. I'm pretty sure that we got at least one, not during the day, but in the morning.
Early morning. Well, the problem is that, you're always playing that game of, well, when are the rodents coming out? Are they coming out during dusk or after solid dark? Until dark, sometimes the cat is still outside, because we try and let her have some fun time in the evening. But as long as there are no great horned owls, then they come in. But you're always playing that game of when do you set the traps and stuff like that. It's kind of a pain.
Hey, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about. Thursday afternoon, I drove down to the car parts place.
Oh, yeah.
And I picked up the blower motor for the car. And the air conditioner just quit working. We were going down to a meeting. As a matter of fact, a week ago today. And the air conditioning stopped completely. The fan didn't work at all. So I spent some time diagnosing that on Sunday and tracked it down to, I thought it was the fan blower motor. Everything I tested said that's what it was. So I ordered one. And yesterday I put the new fan into the car. I'm very happy to say
It works.
we have air conditioning again.
Yeah. He came into the kitchen. I was doing something, and he's like, go sit in the car. And I went, oh. He's probably not going to tell me to go sit in the car if it's a fail.
And next week, you should see a show on finishing the Dutch buckets.
Right. All of the rest of the beds in the garden have been planted fully at this point. In fact, the next patch of bush beans are coming up. They noticed that this morning. So that's good.
There's something that each one of you could do that would help us out a whole lot. And that is if you'd let us know by comments whether or not ads are showing at the beginning of our shows. I'd really appreciate it because I can't see them if they're being shown.
Yeah, a couple of people have told us that they are seeing ads at the beginning of our shows. Now, we have not monetized. And if they're going to show ads at the beginning of our shows, we might as well monetize, because all they're doing is they're making money off the ads, but they're not giving us any. We, as Henry and I have mentioned, we are actively talking about it because there's a lot of expense involved in this. And besides, as I mentioned to him the other day, it's not just the expense of the cameras and all that. I mean, some of this equipment we probably never would have bought except for doing this YouTube channel. I mean, I've got some good still cameras that I use for nature photography, but we wouldn't have gone into the video aspects of it except for this channel. Problem is, we spend this stuff and it interferes with my business.
If you let us know whether or not you're seeing ads at the beginning of our shows, I'd really appreciate it. It'll help us make some other decisions. But in the meantime, you may have noticed, if you've been reading the descriptions of our shows for the past week or 10 days, we have a list of things that we use here on the homestead that we at least say it's worth looking at. And there are links in our show notes that are Amazon affiliate links.
Right.
Now, we get a very small commission from purchases made through those links, but we really appreciate it if you do that.
We've used other people's affiliate links before to buy things. We actually found Hoss Tools through Cog Hill Farms.
Right.
And got a free package of squash, some of which we're eating this summer.
Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications, because
we got lots going on, lots. I'm really looking forward to getting I told Henry, I said, he's got to finish the hydroponics because it will actually lighten my load in terms of greenhouse maintenance. I'm waiting until the hydroponic stuff is in place to be able to shift some other things around and plant up some other plants. So meanwhile, I've got all these little annoying pots that I have to water several times a day in order to keep them alive.
Say goodbye, Irene.
Goodbye, Irene. So until next time, bye.